The only sure rewards in life are in your actions, not from your actions. And I've tried to carry that with me in my career. We chose this career for a reason. It's supposed to be fun. Finding the joy and the reward and even the grueling, midnight edits on something is where you gotta find the smile.
Michael Minter, who is the global head of DC marketing.
DC is an interesting brand in that it really was the first brand, and this credit goes to the founders, Ken and Damon, to really innovate and create what we now know as collaboration culture and doing things that were outside. At the time, skateboarding was this tiny little industry, and to do really, interesting things with artists and other brands and things that now are normal. DC was really the leader of that. I mean, I've been a creative my whole life. I was doing identity systems for, shopping centers, and I did a lot of work for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals and things like that. And I hated it. Pure chance met a guy named Jeff Kelly, brilliant guy, the founder of a brand called Sanuk. And I took like a 50% pay cut to go work with Jeff. And because it gave me the opportunity to touch a brand holistically, from designing the shoes, to photographing the shoes, to creating the campaigns for the shoes, to standing on the factory floor and developing the shoes, so to speak, and just understanding the whole widget. My focus was to help get this brand sort of back on track, both strategically and then in terms of cultural relevance. So my job is sort of to do the anthropology needed to get the brand aligned around a North Star. Like, what are we about? Where are we going? How can that be modernized for current reality? The pandemic put, I think, into overdrive something that is just an obstacle. And that is sort of a race to the bottom tactically, particularly around the area of like paid digital, directive product marketing, that sort of thing. When you're putting $1 into that slot machine and it's giving you $5 back, it is really difficult to not make that an addiction and to let it control all your marketing, all your decisions, all your budgets. And I worry that not just me personally, but our industry and as creatives, there's sort of an atrophy to thinking sort of like tactically innovating and thinking about how to create gravity for your brand, because it just gets so easy to just go, $1 in, $3 out. Second obstacle would be just the homogenization I see go along with that. Is like, I miss the days when you wanted your spread ad in a magazine to just be disruptive and stand out against every other ad. And it's trickier to do that whether it's the culture at large is forcing a certain type of homogenization, just in messaging of what's the right thing to say, so to speak, the ways we disrupt people to purchase. It just, it gets a bit mind-numbing. I grew up in a remote jungle tribe in Papua New Guinea, but I never got to grow up in a specific subculture that way. I wasn't punk rock. I didn't grow up as a skateboarder. It's always been this thing I've been self-conscious of, but in other ways, it's been an advantage for me to be sort of always the objective anthropologist or outsider. I've worked with a lot of different groups in my career, which I love. But skateboarding is very interesting and unique. It's arguably the last true subculture in this world. Play to your strengths, figure out what everyone's sort of special skills are, where they're passionate, and how do you leverage that. No reason to turn a center into a point guard if you don't have to. Applying creativity to everything we're doing, figuring out how to make it serve the strategy. But I think ultimately I'm just curious. I just like to figure things out. It tends to be such an individual thing, of trying to put myself in the shoes of where they're at. What I find helpful is to get them to sort of role play into like that they're the CEO. Like if you can really think about where your piece fits into the bigger picture, it takes on a whole different context. I had the privilege of building a brand basically from nothing to something, a brand called Sanuk. I spent about a decade. We had no resources. We had some timelines that were problematic for us in terms of when we needed to ready our creative versus when the product was ready, just normal growing pains of a brand. And so we created a campaign we called Cut and Paste. So if we couldn't afford to have a surfer on a wave in Tahiti, well, we drew that wave. If we couldn't get the right shoe on, well, we cut it out of a magazine and placed it on. It was really a collage style aesthetic that we leveraged, but it was really about problem solving behind the scenes. Vulnerability. I always have a policy with every team I ever manage or lead, and that is you don't get to shit on someone else's idea unless you're willing to be vulnerable with one of your own, right? It's real easy. It is real easy to find out what's wrong with someone else's idea.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to become self-conscious with that. And I think the vulnerability is that's where the magic is. And so if you kill that if your team dynamics inhibit that, you've got a problem.